Every technological leap and revolution has changed the customer service industry. But what we're witnessing today is unlike anything we've seen before. The advent of tech-powered tools and fast-changing customer expectations are revolutionizing the business of customer experience. Combining the power of technology with the right intent and imagination can be a game changer for companies, turning customer experiences into an engine of growth that drives sales and satisfaction and, above all, loyalty. In this special episode of Media Dialogues with Storyboard18, we will find out how some of the leading businesses are transforming customer experience from a cost center to a profit center. To help us understand how it's done, we have a stellar panel of guests who are leading the way. We have with us Arun Parameswaran, Senior VP and Managing Director for India at Salesforce, Devendra Patil, Head of Business Excellence at Hafele India, and Abhishek Gupta, Chief Marketing Officer, Edelweiss Tokio Life Insurance. Welcome to the show, gentlemen. It's lovely to have you here. And I'm going to kick off the conversation, Arun, with you and ask you, how important is it to have a customer-centric culture in these times, especially with everything that we've seen with the pandemic years and how important customer service and experience was during that time? Tell me how important it is to build that customer-centric culture to drive business growth.
Thank you, and great opportunity for me to be here. Let me give you some numbers. We run a state of the service survey every year globally, and we have a large participation from customers in India as well. Some very interesting numbers came out. Over 85% of customers have said experience is as important, if not more, than the product. Right? They said over 70% said technology has made it very easy for them to take the business elsewhere if the company that they're working with is not able to deliver the kind of experience that they want. And so when you start thinking about some of these numbers, then another staggering number is, I think 65 or 66% of customers said that they're more likely to switch purely based on customer experience than the product itself, right? And so what you're realizing is that, the whole world is moving towards this concept of personalization and how much you are able to make a customer feel wanted, and therefore the loyalty that comes from the other side. And I think that has now become the foundation on which every business is driving growth, and every business is looking at how do they, retain customers towards the view of how do I build long-term value with them. So I think this is a foundational shift that started at the pandemic, and it's only going to get even more aggressive with everybody vying for that customer's time, if you will. Absolutely. And that fundamental shift that you mentioned started or accelerated during the pandemic for sure. And that was a great context that you said there. And I'm going to ask Abhishek to perhaps jump in here and tell me from your perspective, how critical has the element of customer experience become in the sense that it's moving from a cost center to a profit center, especially in an area that you function in, right? BFSI. We all know, the grouses that customers have with a lot of the, the banking firms and the financial firms. So tell me from that perspective, how are you seeing this shift happen?
Thank you, Dilshad. Since you asked about profit center, and profits is all about numbers, and the numbers probably most define the profit. So let me give you some number twist over here. According to a survey that was done in terms of your loyal customers, they follow a bell curve. 20% of your customers are unprofitable to you, 60% of customers are profitable to you, and the balance 20% are highly profitable to you. So when you have a scenario where in terms of the loyal customers 80% are profitable to you, it becomes a no-brainer that the company's organization needs to focus on offering superior consumer experience in order so that this consumer experience drives profitability. In our industry, and let me talk specific to life insurance industry, consumer buys our product for a fairly long term, 15-20 years period of time. While consumer buys it for a 15-20 years, our interaction with the consumer's interaction with us is fairly limited. It only happens when the consumer wants to renew the policy, which almost happens once a year or maximum twice a year. So in an industry where the repeat or the regular interactions are fairly limited or fairly infrequent, offering customer a very superior onboarding experience and the first part of the interaction with the customer becomes extremely important to us. It also becomes extremely important because another data says that a consumer ends up buying 7 life insurance policies in his or her lifetime. So, if you have and if you really want to get the full value from the lifetime value of the consumer, you would really like to get a maximum wallet share out of these 7 policies.
Right.
And that can only happen if you are able to offer a superior consumer experience, because in an industry with 24 players, there is a product parity. Products are more or less similar across all companies. So, it is the experience that sets apart.
Absolutely. Devendra, I'm going to ask you to perhaps sort of dial back a little bit now before we get into the how of transforming customer experience from a cost center to a profit center. Let me ask you in terms of, in terms of sort of maybe the challenges and some of the risks that are sort of associated with making that transformation, perhaps from an organizational point of view. Do you have any thoughts on what those challenges are?
In terms of challenges and implementing customer experience, so for us,
A superior customer experience.
a very, very superior
Yes.
customer experience, I think is the journey. When you map the customer journey, it's important that how you handle the customer. So, maybe 5 years, 10 years back, service was the last leg of the customer journey, right?
Exactly.
But in today's world, it is the starting point, the middle point and the end point. So, how you handle the customer throughout the journey is very, very important, and enabling it with the technology part of it post-COVID is very, very important.
Absolutely, well said. Arun, I'm going to come back to you. Like I mentioned, we need to get into the how of making it happen, right? So give me a sense of, how do you transform customer experience from a cost center to a profit center? What are some of the key sort of learnings, use cases, anything that you can share with us?
I think in our world, we call it, having a 360 view of the customer, right? When and I give an example today, I have 2 banking relationships, right? And it is very obvious. I have one bank that knows everything about me. When I call, they seem to have all the information on me. If for some reason my call disconnects, which happens all the time in this country, I get a call back. I don't from the other bank. I have to repeat myself every time. They don't seem to have information on what I'm, what my issues are, what my last, for example, if I get disconnected, I have to start all over again. There is no, again, start the story all over again, right? So the concept of a customer 360 is becoming extremely crucial. The moment you build that, right, and you're now able to take all touch points that the customer has with you as a company and able to present that to somebody and say, every time, I call in or every time I have a touch point, an engagement, whether it's on a website, it's a chat bot, it's a call that I make, if I'm visiting a branch of a bank or, a telecom provider, that foundationally will change my view of who I want to do business with, right? So I think where it comes down to, and that's the business that we are in, we believe that our motto is to make every one of our customers, make them the customer company for their customers, right? How do they engage? How do they provide that real-time engagement? So if you think about the future we believe is winning 4 battles. How do you present data in real time, right? How are you going to use, I know your favorite topic, artificial intelligence, because data is going to be in trillions of interactions. How are you going to use artificial intelligence to present the right data? And then how are you going to use the combination of data and AI to personalize what you want to tell your customer so that he engages with you? And like you said, right, if you're a life insurance company and you've got somebody who's only interested in engaging with you twice a year, how do you keep that connection going, right? And so I think the challenge is going to be having a holistic view of the customer and then using the rest of these, what I call the legs of technology, to make sure that you're able to constantly engage with that customer. Because right now, my time is limited, right? So I'm going to go where I know that the company or the customer, the organization that I'm engaging with knows me, knows what I want, is 2 steps ahead of me. It's a little scary,
Yes.
but
yes.
it's a little scary, but that's where the world is.
But that's what the customer expectation is today,
Yes.
right? You first of all, you don't want to be hung up on. That's the start.
Right.
But if that happens, you don't want to tell your story again. You don't want to feel like you are in a loop or perhaps a groundhog day of sorts. But Devendra, you would like to add something to that, perhaps, because I saw you nodding there
Yes,
to some of the
absolutely.
points that Arun was making.
Yeah,
So fill us in on what you're thinking.
I would just like to add that understanding personas of the customer is also very important. So there are different customers with different needs, and you cannot provide a standard service to all the customers, right? Because every customer will have a different need altogether. Some customers would prefer to chat with a bot, but some customers would still prefer a human. So when you have different communication channels available with the customer, be it a chat bot or a voice bot or a human element, it is very important that the offerings are different for different customers. So you cannot switch off one, because it's a transition from a human interaction to a technology and maybe tomorrow a generative AI. But you cannot switch off, or you need to give options to the customer and choose as per their personas.
Yes, yes. It's also sort of augmented intelligence is what we've also been talking about.
If I may just add, right, I think it essentially comes down to 2 things: customer segmentation and personalization.
Yep.
Right. So today we're working with a cinema hall. If you walk into the hall with, they'll essentially know who you are. And when you walk into the hall, you'll get an SMS saying, hey, would you like to have a meal package of popcorn plus Pepsi? Because we know that last time you were here and you watched a movie, you bought a popcorn plus Pepsi combo, right? And so we know that, over the last 4 times, you've had a propensity to buy something. And so my ability to nudge that customer and say, hey, I've got something special for you, comes from the fact that I know who that customer is.
Right.
I've segmented that customer, and I'm now able to personalize my offer to that customer, understanding that his propensity to buy is going to be much higher, right? So the notion of spray and pray, which is how marketing was done, even digital marketing 3 years back was essentially blast emails, blast SMSs. That ain't working anymore, right? So I think the world is moving very fast and furious. Almost all of our customers today want to be able to do that segmentation,
And
want to be able to deliver that
hyper-personalization.
hyper-personalization.
Absolutely. Abhishek, you were nodding too there. Hyper-personalization, you mentioned, of course, insurance is a very sort of different beast altogether. But from what you're hearing from your perhaps colleagues everywhere in the industry, what are you hearing in terms of that sort of hyper-personalization drive?
So
And that's transforming, of course,
Yeah,
customer
so
experience.
you see, insurance, as I was telling you, is a long-term product and a consumer buys. And over this period of the journey, there are many life stages changes happens for the customer. And these life stages always act as a trigger. So the moment you get married, you realize that there's a responsibility, and therefore you start thinking of insurance. You have a childbirth, you start thinking of insurance. The child starts going to school and the first big expense hits you, then you realize I need to start planning for education. So all these are triggers, and we actually map these triggers because these are the triggers, it is the right trigger for us to pitch our product. The challenge that we face is, how do I know that this trigger is happening in the life of the customer? Because this particular customer has bought an insurance for me probably when this customer was unmarried. Now he or she is married, now has a kid, now the kid is going to school, but do I have the enough knowledge with me that the trigger has happened? If I have, then I am able to personalize my offering to this customer basis the life stage that the consumer is in. That's a challenge that the entire industry is facing, and if we are able to solve for it, which I believe yes, because of hyper personalization, because of a lot of the new technological tool which is coming, we are able to do it. It also, one point that I would like to drive, it also depends on the culture of the organization. Does the culture actually promote that you need to start nurturing the customers over a period of time, or it is only driven by short term gains, just do a sale today and forget about it?
Right.
So I will
the
still,
customer as a human being.
yes, and therefore I will still place the culture above everything else. It's above the tools which are available, it's above the technological challenges plus the innovations which are coming. I'll put the culture on the top of everything.
Right, right. I mean, again, back to the point about a culture-centric approach, right, and a philosophy. Sorry, Devendra, please go on.
Just adding to that, there's a saying, culture eats strategy for breakfast, right? And it
Lunch
starts
and
from
dinner.
and dinner, of course. So it starts from the beginning. So customer experience is not a department's job, right? It is not anymore a customer service or customer care department's job. It starts from the beginning. And it is very important that each and every department is working towards giving an experience to the customer. And if you look at KPIs, how many KPIs are there for maybe a back office person, for a CSAT or an NPS? Never, not even for a finance guy. But at Hafele, we were able to do that. Customer first is the first competency that we have for each and every employee in the organization. So that shows how serious are we to customer service or customer care. And it starts from there. Are we future ready? Are we customer centric? It starts from there, and everything then just follows.
Absolutely, absolutely. Let me just maybe switch tracks a little bit here, and I mean, feel free if anybody would like to take it and talk about sort of, you know, a data-centric approach to also measuring the impact of your CX initiatives. You know, how do you approach that? I mean, feel free to take that question. Please go on.
So voice of the customer is the starting point for us. So everything that we do throughout the customer journey, we try to listen to the customer. We have our ears open. We want to understand what the customer needs. And it is not really in terms of what we want to give to the customer. It's a balance between what they want and what we give, right? And the timing, I said, is very, very important of when to implement what things. In terms of technology, there is a lot of technology available in the market today, but is your customer ready throughout the journey to accept that as a technology or an interface? Because in our case, like I said, the personas would be different. There would be, since we are an interior fittings company, it could be an architect, it could be an interior designer, there could be carpenters who are the influencers for us. So it is very important for us to have a mix of everything and give that option to the customer. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
A little addition or probably a little difference of opinion, probably I would like to bring it over here, is the way we are measuring customer experience these days. Most of the organizations which have taken step to this move towards measuring NPS, okay, which is defined as currently the gold standard for measuring your customer experience.
Yes.
My belief is that is fairly reactive in nature, because you are going back to the customer after the incident or after the interaction has happened, trying to figure out how did you fare. So it's fairly reactive. I believe it's a little unfocused, because you are actually not able to get the sharp insight unless and until you take an additional effort of going back to customers and asking if the customers are actually not very happy with your service. It is also very ambiguous right now, and therefore the need is to move to something which is fairly predictive in nature rather than reactive. It also needs that something that is actually very much tied back to the ROI. Unfortunately, what happens is all the investments you want to make in CX, we as CX professionals are not able to build in the ROI and connect with the ROI, and therefore that probably is not always on the focus. The moment you are able to build an ROI focus into it, so make it predictive, make ROI focus, make it all encompassing, so that it covers the entire organization. These things, if done properly, and I am sure there are a lot of technological tools which are available, which are coming in now, which will really help us to get over there.
Right.
How do you define CX? I mean, the question, to me, it's a foundational question, right?
Absolutely.
Because, you know, historically, CX was more, I call into a call center, I have my issue resolved, did I have a good experience, you know, what rating would I give? The agent will say, sir, we'll send you an SMS, can you please, you know, rate me, and 9 on 10 is preferred, right? That was foundationally CX. But if you think about it today, CX starts from your first touch point with the company, even before you become a customer, right? We're dealing with a, you know, with a very large customer, you know, they're in the automotive sector, but they're saying, we don't want to be known as an automotive company, we want to be known as an experience company.
Interesting. Wow.
Okay? And so I was like, okay, that's a completely different paradigm, because they're saying, you know, if they engage with us and they feel the experience is different, they will buy everything that we're there, you know, to offer to them. And so I think customer experience now has taken on a completely different, you know, in my view, avatar, in the sense that you could easily attribute your top line, you could attribute lead conversion, you could attribute one of 10 different things before somebody becomes a customer, right, to CX initiatives. Today, the simplicity with which I can buy something, right, is the #1 reason why I would want to work with a particular organization, right? Have you ever been to an Apple store, right? how simple do they
Very
make it at the time of billing, right? You walk around, they come with a simple mobile device, they scan the QR code, your credit card is swiped, and you're out. Just compare that to the clunkiness that we go through in this country, right? When I go to an electronic store, and I'm saying across the board, right, trying to get an item billed, it's a very different experience, right? So if I had an opportunity to buy a product, and if that was available at Apple, I'm more likely to end up in the Apple store because I know that customer experience is so superior. I'm not even a customer at this point in time, right? And even when I walk in and I want to have a conversation with them about a product, the way they engage with you, right? Just to give you an example, so my point is, the customer experience piece is not after the fact. Today it's starting well before somebody's actually become your customer. How do you draw them in? And so I think the whole paradigm is shifting, and which is why if you see a lot of companies today are investing a lot in the experience upfront, knowing that if they get that right, the rest of it will fall in place.
Absolutely, absolutely.
For example, if you browse through a website, the first thing you see a chatbot coming in and trying to support you. That experience makes a difference. The first starting point. It's not the end point, the starting point. So proactively how good you are in terms of engaging with the customer makes a lot of difference.
Yeah, right from the start.
Yes.
Even before the start, as you mentioned.
Yes.
But because you...
And let me give you the antithesis of this, right? So I'm shopping for a wrinkle-free shirt, right? This is one of the biggest brands in the country. I'm going on the left-hand pane and I'm saying wrinkle-free, and I'm giving my size, and I want whites and blues only. And I'm looking for wrinkle-free only. Guess what I'm being shown? The entire catalog.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? And I've done this 4 times now, and I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm not going to bother. I like the shirt, right? So when I'm in a physical store, I'm happy to buy that shirt. But sometimes I just don't have the time or energy to go in Bangalore traffic to a store to pick one. So I want to do this online, but the experience is so bad that now I'm thinking, why can't they make this simple? It's, I'm giving everything. As a consumer, I'm telling you I want this, right? I provided my information when I went to the store, so they have access to all of, if they did a full customer 360, right? The moment I put my mobile number in, they should know that I bought this wrinkle-free shirt in a physical store. I'm asking for it. Don't show me anything else. But that's where I think that's the opportunity, right? So I'm giving you the opposite end of not having a good experience, but that's an opportunity for a company then to get that right, to have that personalization, build a full customer 360, and therefore deliver that kind of experience.
Make it absolutely seamless and hassle-free, essentially, right? Because while the product checks all the boxes, it's your experience that loses you that customer. But because, of course, you mentioned Apple stores and the human beings that, populate that store and give you all that information and make the whole experience really something worthwhile that draws you back as well. But let me now come to the other end of it and talk about what everyone's talking about right now, and we touched upon a few things, but artificial intelligence. And of course, we know that, AI has been, deployed in various ways for many years now, but it's top of mind. So let me just get a sense perhaps quickly from each of you in terms of deployment of AI-powered tools, as well as other technological tools that are assisting these days in enhancing that customer experience and just taking it to the next level. Abhishek, I'll come to you first.
Yeah, so, interestingly, many of these tools are being utilized not in the consumer facing functions or not in the consumer facing domains within an organization. I'll give you an example. For a life insurance company, the moment of truth is the claim. The moment of truth is the claim. Where are you able to properly handle the customer when the claim has happened? Now, one of the biggest deterrent in a proper claim passing is if the customer has not been fully truthful when the customer was filling up the application form in terms of declaring everything, any medical issues or anything, which during the course of investigation we might stumble upon later. Now, if we are able to nip this problem in the bud, how to minimize wrong declaration, or most of them these wrong declarations also unintentional. If I am able to nip this in the bud, most of these customers will have an extremely superior experience when the moment of truth comes. So, we are deploying a lot of tools over there which actually are giving us a lot of predictive predictive data around that this set of customers, there seems to be some issue in what they have filled in the form, basis the historical trends which have happened.
Right.
So, what we do is we proactively call up these customers, figure out that there is an issue and we try to rectify it then and there. Now, this actually if I look at in terms of numbers, it is a huge number which actually pushes up what the industry measures life insurance company is from a claim settlement ratio. Is your claim settlement ratio higher? Just this small simple technique takes the claim settlement ratio notches higher. That is one part. Second part, let me give another example to you. This industry is also hugely dependent upon agents, or we call them advisors.
Right.
Yeah.
Advisors also have a choice, like consumers have a choice, advisors have a choice to choose any life insurance company that they want to sell. And these advisors also have a huge attrition rate. Our model actually predicts which advisor is going to stay with us and which advisor is not going to stay with us. So, the cohort which we think is not going to stay with us, we put in interventions over there. And we do with customers also, because customers has to pay us for a 15-20 years. If customer stops paying in between, that is a loss to us,
Right.
because we have front ended the cost of acquiring the customer. So, we very well know that which customers are likely to lapse and therefore not continuing paying their premiums, and we design interventions around them so that they continue paying to us. So, all of these are hugely actually they came into being only because we had the tools which are available.
Right. Absolutely.
So, there are a lot of cases, use cases that insurance industry has really been working on, and it has been a blessing for us till now. Yes,
Transformational, as we said.
absolutely.
Yes.
I will call it
Yeah,
transformational.
yeah,
You put
yeah.
it right. Yes.
Devendra, quick comments on deploying AI tools to enhance and take customer experience to the next level.
So, fortunately, I have first-hand experience of implementing both the bots on the voice bot as well as the chat bot on the WhatsApp channel. We implemented it 2 years back, fairly new concept. We were a little apprehensive in implementing it, whether it is the right way to do it. We are taking the human element out, but it was necessary at that time, and we experimented it. It took a lot of learning, training the bot on how to interact with the customer. It was an interactive bot. Surprisingly, we were expecting it to be 10-15% of the volumes to be handled. Today, we are handling close to 40% of the volume through the bot, which is good. And surprising to me that the customers have adapted to it. Okay, we are still training the bot every day, so it's a new learning. I remember 2 years back, just to make the bot pronounce Hafele, it took us 5 hours. So it was so challenging.
Yeah, I hope I got it right though when I said it. But Arun, I'll let you have the last word on how the technology piece is changing things up and changing the game, and is actually the transformational force in many ways. But at the end of the day, it's people deploying it and people sort of using it. So, so your last thoughts on that?
Look, here's what I would say, right? We're the #1 CRM company in the world. We invented the category practically. And so when you think about our platforms today, we make about 2 trillion predictions every day. We've had Einstein, which is our, embedded AI technology in our platforms for the last 5 years. And, customers have been using this. So a lot of consumers don't even know that, there is a lot of artificial intelligence, predictive AI, so to speak, that's been deployed for the last 5 years, right? And we've been using it. We just didn't know it existed, right? Generative AI is taking on a completely different turn altogether in terms of how they're going to impact and boost productivity and efficiency. But at the end of the day, I completely agree with what both gentlemen said. It comes down to the culture of the company, right? And again, I go back to Apple. I mean, I've been fascinated by the company, #1 in market cap, not for any other reason. They put their customers at the center of everything. They put the customer experience, whether it's a product, the service, the way you engage. And so I think, they've had, Siri has been around for quite a long time, and you could start saying that there's probably AI beginnings with Siri, if you will, in their world. And so I think it comes down to a combination of how will you harness technology, how will you bring the culture of the organization together, and then the third part, which is very important, is how do you start transforming your age-old processes now to take advantage of the technology, right? Because the worst thing is to put a bullock cart in front of a Ferrari.
Yeah.
And we see that all the time, right? We have, see it so many times when customers spend, a ridiculous amount of money on technology transformation, but the amount of inertia to change an existing process, right, is irrational. So I think, you know, it goes back to the same three things. I started my career 30 years back when people said people, process, and technology. It hasn't changed.
Yep.
It's the same three legs on
Yes,
which every
absolutely.
transformation
Absolutely.
rests. So, you know, there are going to be curves, there are going to be new names and new fads, but I
Right.
think the foundation hasn't changed in a long time.
Absolutely. That's a great note to end our conversation on.
Can I
Arun.
add
Thank
something
you so
to
much.
that point?
Please, of course.
So while we are building technology and AI for the customer, it is also very important that there's a human setting who is supporting the customer as well. So what is the infrastructure we are building for the agent to support the customer in bringing in the technology or the AI element, just like Arun said. He is there using a technology where information is available, maybe customer 360 is one of them, Einstein is one of them, giving a better experience to the customer, getting all the information in front of him. That's going to be the difference.
Game changer, as we said.
Yes, yeah.
Well, thank you so much, gentlemen. It was lovely chatting with you. It was a very illuminating chat, so lots to take out. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.